All right, technology's so stupid. Hello, Jeromes. Friday Q&A session. It's going down. Went to the Facebook this time for some Jerome Q&A because of shenanigans that's going on YouTube. But in the future, we'll cross over a lot of YouTube, a lot of Facebook going on. First question from Dan Ryan. How did Seattle only get one friggin' penalty the whole game? LOL, rigged. Brandon Collins, what if our defense was as good as 2017, 2018? Now that we have an offense and the defense is trash. Yeah, that's the frustrating thing about it. Isn't Kirk Cousins finally gets his stuff together, and now the defense, which has been Zimmer's hallmark for so many years, just falls apart. Stephen Vold, honestly, your show is one of my favorite forms of entertainment. Would you add one more year to Kirk's contract for $30 million as of today? Also, what is your height and weight? Well, Steve, thank you for the love. Height and weight, 5'7". I walk around at about 202, 205 on a given day. Maybe even more on the holidays now. Let's see here. Add one more year to Kirk's contract for $30 million. I would, except also he wouldn't take it because it was no accident that he had a 3-year contract, not a 2, not a 4-year contract when he signed here with the Vikings because it bumped right up against the new CBA. And his agent, Mike McCartney, is a financial gangster. So I actually think that they're going to play this out. I don't think Kirk will take anything less than a massive, massive deal. So it's all moot. Top fan, Scotty Ball. Why don't the Vikings motion Irv Smith out to a wide receiver spot more often, the way they did at Bama, especially with Thielen out? Well, he's been playing the slot a lot more with Thielen out. He just hasn't replaced Thielen's productivity as of yet. And they're still working in how to get him more involved in the offense. Kong Vang. Last year, Holton Hill was solid given a chance, only got burned by Speedy Gabriel out of Chicago. With Hughes not being able to deliver, why have the Vikings not used Hill more? Must not be doing well in practice. Well, I think Zimmer sometimes cuts off his nose to spite his face. I think he's punishing Holton Hill still. Same thing with J-Ron Curse to a degree, where you saw that J-Ron tore it up against Denver, was the MVP towards the end of that game, and then didn't really get the time of day against Seattle. I think Zimmer does do these weird like punishment sort of things where Holton Hill, I mean, there's a reason why he's still on this team surviving multiple suspensions because the kid's got talent. He played like one of the best Vikings cornerbacks last year. He'd be better than Rhodes. He'd be better than Hughes. He'd be better than Waynes right now, but he's still not seeing the field. It's weird. Tucker Ackerman. Do you see Stefanski going to the Panthers as a head coach next year? If not, where do you think he ends up? Love the show. Makes the commute to work that much better. Skull from South Dakota. Love you, Tucker. You're the man. I actually did predict Stefanski will go to Carolina. Just reading through the tea leaves, David Tepper's already tipped his hand a little bit. He mentioned that the league is going young, it's going offensive, so I think that's the way that they go. I think Kevin Stefanski should and could be one of the hot head coaching candidates. He's put in his time. Look at the work he's done with Kirk Cousins, as well as if you're Carolina, you see what Kevin Stefanski did with Dalvin Cook. Now imagine what he could do with Christian McCaffrey in a modern offense as opposed to the Turner's offense. So I think that it's going to be a spot for Stefanski, and I think he's going to be gone. I do. And also I think Pat Shurmur's going to be fired in New York, so bring him on back as the OC. Why the hell not? Tyler Newman, 2nd and 2 with 2:30 left on clock. Zimmer used the timeout. Why not give them the first down try, 1st and 10 with 2 minutes left? I don't know. I think there was a whole mishmash of clock mismanagement towards the end of that game, as well as play calling. Speaking of Stefanski, the Vikings' last offensive possession, just all around a little bit of a cluster towards the end of that game. Eric Anderson, do you think that Kirk Cousins' best season as a pro is being wasted by the mediocre play of our defense, specifically our corners? Yeah, I mean, it sort of sucks that Kirk Cousins actually gets his stuff together, and now the defense is terrible. I mean, if this Kirk Cousins was on last year's team, that's a very clear playoff team, and I think they make a little bit of noise in the playoffs. That's what's frustrating around here. Top fan Kyle Nash. Why is Xavier Rhodes still a starting corner in the NFL? Because Xavier has the pictures. Top fan Braden Gray. When are the regular recorded podcasts coming back? Asking for a friend. Time permitting, with everyone's schedules involved, potentially this offseason. Top fan Johnny Hamans. Why didn't he throw to Madison on 4th and 3? Biggest question of the game. Well, we did the film breakdown, and if he did throw to Madison, KJ Wright and Bobby Wagner were just sitting there chilling. I actually think Madison would have been stopped short of the sticks. Top fan Shannon Wiltshire. Who do you think we should go for in the draft rounds 1 through 3? Well, I think position-wise, I think it'll go offensive tackle. I think 3-tech is a low-key position need. Actually, not high-key position need. Cornerback, obviously, as well as quarterback. I think they should start hedging their bets for the future of Kirk Cousins. Top fan Robbie Kirchner. What is really going on with Thielen's injury? Well, from what I've gathered, last Thursday, informal practice, he had a setback. So now they didn't play him in the game Monday night, rightfully so, because he could have done something else to that hamstring. But now it's really touch and go. Honestly, if they give him off another week against Detroit, or they dress him but don't play him, only play him if it's really in dire situation in the Detroit game, which probably it should not be as 13.5-point favorites. Of course, we saw what happened against Denver. I think they should go that route. Top fan Nicholas Knutson. What % chance do you give Dalvin Cook to finish the season without any further injury? Well, I think it's relatively low. And it sucks because Dalvin's having a career year and he's finally shedding that injury-prone label. But the chest and shoulder injury that he had against Seattle, I do think that's directly connected to him getting banged up by Derek Wolfe on the 2-point conversion against Denver 3 weeks ago. So I think it's something that could linger. Honestly, I think let him sit against Detroit. Let Alexander Madison run buck wild, especially in the fantasy playoffs, son. Let's go. Top fan. Garrett Bryson Harvey. Why is Zimmer giving Rhodes and the D so many free passes? He really has no choice. I guess also it's his baby, so he's going to be major apologizing for it. Watch what will happen. Like, he'll fire George Edwards this offseason because the defense wasn't up to par. Okay. Al Zam. Why not bring Doxson back instead of bringing up Hollins? Is there more to the story on his release? I think Doxson was just banged up also. Wasn't really meshing well. I don't think that he was just going to work out. Austin Arias. Was the chance that Kevin Stefanski stays with the Vikings next year? I have 50% chance he says. I would say 5%. I think he's going to get one of these head coaching jobs, whether it's Carolina and another of the other openings that will be up here. I don't think he goes to Washington because I think that he'll have enough options where he doesn't have to just take that job where it's 1 out of 32 because it's a massive cesspool there. But yeah, I think he is gone, and I think he's earned that. I wish him nothing but the best. Liadis, Tremont Robinson. Do Xavier Rhodes need to be drug tested? He declined way too fast. Well, if he was on drugs, he needs to get back on them. Zhao Thao. Quarterbacks that played a bad game but came out with a game-winning touchdown field goal say stats don't matter as long as they get the W. Why does Kirk get a pass when he had a chance to go down the field and get us a game-winning touchdown? Well, I think he did lead to fourth-quarter touchdown drives, which put the Vikings even in opportunity to be within striking distance. So I think Cousins played a great game. I think play calling towards the end was not great, and of course Cousins did not make a couple of throws, especially that 4th and 3 one, which I think that was a bad play call to begin with. But yeah, it is what it is. He lost, but Kirk Cousins was not the reason why the Vikings lost overall Monday night in Seattle. Tefan Dua H Lai. If Zimmer Spielman isn't re-signed, who fills their shoes? Well, all right. So say they're both axed. I think George Payton would step in for Rick Spielman, and Ron Rivera is interesting. Even though usually you go against type when bringing in the replacement, but I mean Ron Rivera, 2-time Coach of the Year, took the Panthers to the Super Bowl, won 3 division titles in 8 years in a very competitive NFC South. I think he'd be a great head coach. He's a great man as well. But also, if they just axe Zimmer, elevating Stefanski, I would not be against that. Not at all. On Aaron Drummond, how can we feasibly move on from Rhodes and his contract? Cut him. Like, no one's going to trade for that contract. Just cut him. Eat that $4.8 million dead in 2020. It does free up $8.1 million in cap, which you can use to re-sign Anthony Harris or Mac Alexander or Steve Weatherly. You can do whatever you want with it. Eric D. Hansen, what is going to be the biggest challenge for the Vikings organization this offseason? Well, they are going to make the playoffs, and they are going to be stuck with a draft pick that's in the 20s or later. So frankly, though, this team doesn't need to overhaul. But moving on from Xavier Rhodes, potentially Riley Reif, eating some of those contracts and freeing up some cap space, I think that's going to be the challenge. Also, they need to address a number of positions. If they move on from Rhodes and Reif, you have obviously cornerback and tackle, and then 3-tech and quarterback with not a ton of draft capital to work with. Joel Birdie, history of the Jerome thing. So really quick. there was a show back in the day, Poker Road Radio, Poker Wire Radio, etc. And with Phil Ivey, when he played underage in Atlantic City, he had a fake ID, and his name was Jerome. And on the show, they call him Philip Jerome Horatio Ivey, Philip Jerome Ivey. So it just sort of stuck and ran with it, and we lifted that. Yeah, we stole it the way that the Vikings stole the skull chant from the Icelandic soccer team or whatever. Yeah. Wesley Hindi. Was Xavier Rhodes struggling? Do we address cornerback early in the draft? Yes. I think you have to. Jake Carroll, is it time to move on from Zimmer, or should we stick with him for one more year? Well, if he misses the playoffs, I think all bets are off. And also, if it's a one and done in the playoffs, I think it's still up in the air. Still a little dicey. I wouldn't be mad if they kept him. I wouldn't be mad if they fired him. If the Vikings made the playoffs and were one and done still. Because I think everyone's still tied together with Kirk Cousins. Top fan Miguel Rev. If Cook is out, does Alexander Madison have what it takes to keep a stable running game? Yes. Yes, he certainly does. He's not as good of a receiver, not as explosive, but just in terms of being a great fit for the outside zone scheme, as well as just being a hammer. I'm all in on Alexander Madison. Top fan Donovan C. Wyke, what really happened to Wabi? I don't know, and no one really does. Joseph Ponce de Leon, are the Vikings better than our record states? No, I think this is firmly an 8-4 team. I think they're lucky to be 8-4, and also they're lucky that the rest of the NFC isn't not that competitive, as they're sort of backing their way into the playoffs. Andrew Nicolancy, why is Xavier Rhodes still on the team? Money and the pictures. Tim Rizzo, what happened to the YouTube channel? All right, so we got flagged for hate speech. What I surmised was that a bunch of Packers fans went through and flagged every single one of our videos until the YouTube automation just like kicked in. And it happened overnight. We got a warning and a strike all at once. And the appeal didn't go through. So we were suspended for a week. But we'll be back on Friday or Saturday. Top fan Michael Pels. How do we make the team more aggressive on offense and defense? Feels like the team needs more high octane, some more. Yeah, that's a good question, especially on defense where you have all that talent, and yet this is still a mediocre, middle-of-the-pack defensive unit. I don't really know. Let's see here. Anthony James Darby, do you think Zimmer being a head coach will the Vikings ever win the Super Bowl? I could see them winning a Super Bowl with Zimmer. I wouldn't wager on it, if that makes sense. Kirk Vatland, why can't we just, as an organization, fan base, and media, just call it what it is? Zimmer has the most talented roster in the league. His defense has been a weak link, is extremely overrated. Yet, this is a whole paragraph. Kirk has proven his money. Zimmer fails as a head coach. 10-6 NFC isn't what it used to mean. So basically, fire Zimmer. Yeah, okay. Top fan Isaiah Russell. Talk about Coach Zimmer and how he should be on the hot seat. Well, like we mentioned, even if they get to the playoffs and if the Vikings are one and done in the wild card round, in all likelihood, it's up in the air. Certainly is. Jack Lynch. Would you ever consider doing a halftime video every Vikings game? I like the Broncos one, not because it was a rant, but because it was an interesting idea. First half is also fresh on your mind. Yeah, as soon as we get back on the YouTube, also on the Facebook, we're going to learn how to, as well as the Twitch, we're going to stream, like 10 minutes during halftime, thoughts on the first half, and it should be a lot of fun there. As long as we aren't a hammer band again. Top fan Cameron Gilmore. Do you think the Vikings organization is one of the top 3 cursed teams in the NFL? Yeah. Because I forget the stat, but in terms of winning percentage in the Super Bowl era, the Vikings are like top 4, and they're the only team in the top 10 without a Super Bowl win, which is just frustrating. Top fan Chris Zapponi. Hi, Andy. My question is, was there a fault with YouTube? I haven't seen the videos posted in a week. Well, we explained that one already. Top fan, let's see here. Johnny Chase and Papers. When are we not going to poop the bed? This is getting old. Well, welcome to being a Vikings fan. And lastly, Carlos De La Torre. Why is Pat Elflein not cut yet? I don't know. He's the 3rd round pick. So if Spielman cuts him, that would be admitting defeat. That's not really Spielman's MO. And that's it. That's the Jerome's Q&A for this week. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Also subscribe, as well as get the content wherever you can. YouTube, subscribe. Facebook, like us. Twitch, follow us on there as well. And I love you guys. I just love you. Yeah. But until next time, Skull, production value.